this is your host, Julia Napini. I am a clinical and forensic social worker who owns a counseling practice and a consulting business. In this show, we discuss the challenges of being successful in business while maintaining your integrity and staying true to yourself. Join me while I interview other professionals and share insights from life and experience. Let's talk about RingRx, our latest sponsor. RingRx is a high-quality, HIPAA-compliant telephone, text, and fax communications platform. They provide seamless, cost-effective communications for behavioral therapists, medical practices, hospitals, and other healthcare providers. RingRx is designed for modern healthcare environments. They offer customizable features like a phone app, automated patient outreach, voicemail, after-hours call routing, and top-quality desk phones. Try RingRx for free today at ringrx.com. And if you sign up using the code CLIMB, you'll get 15% off your monthly bill forever. Conditions apply. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Compassionate Climb podcast. Our guest today is somebody who is going to be bringing a lot of interesting information to us, kind of a beautiful blend of personal experience and really transcending that through her work as a coach. So our topic today is going to be on healing the relationship with ourselves in order to become an energetic match for high value love. How exciting is that? Morgan Danielle, welcome to the show.
Julia, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Oh, me too. So we connected on a Facebook group, and I am really interested to learn more about the work that you do and how you help your coaching clients find love. So give us some background. Tell us how you got into doing the work that it is that you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course it started with my own personal experience. I like to say our mess can become our message, right? And so I turned my pain into my purpose because I struggled with codependency, love addiction, toxic and abusive relationships for around 13 years of my life. And I kind of hit this breaking point where I was like, why the heck does this keep happening to me? I don't get it. Like, what is wrong with me? All of the things that we ask ourselves when we get to this breaking point, right? And so I kind of understood that I was the common denominator. And what I like to say is, like, if you are the problem, then you are also the solution. And so I was like, I have to, there's some reason why I experience what I'm experiencing, and then I look at my friends, my family, these people around me that they can have good relationships. So what is it that is causing this? And so that's when I really had to dive deep into, self-discovery and take a look at my life and my patterns, the way that I was thinking, the way that I was feeling, the way that I was behaving. And once I could figure out that it was actually, what the root cause for my relationship patterns was, and that I could actually change what I was attracting, that's when everything started to shift for me. And of course it didn't happen overnight, but I went from attracting, very abusive relationships to then it was kind of like the emotionally unavailable ones where the guys weren't mean to me necessarily, but I was still not getting what I wanted in love. And so it was kind of like a situation after situation that allowed me to tweak and understand deeper to the point where now I'm engaged to the man of my dreams. We live in our dream home. I have a 12-year-old daughter and we're getting married next year. And so it's really been quite the journey. But once I figured out, the reason for all of this, I knew that I had to share it with every woman that wanted to learn.
Ah, well, congratulations. I'm happy to hear about the love that you found and where you're at currently, and what a commendable journey. So one of the hot topics that I'm very familiar with is when people are making that transition into their personal experience, they identify the work that they want to do and who they want to do that work with. And then they have to bridge that gap into becoming a coach, setting themselves apart, and really finding those people that are their ideal clients. And a lot of who we have on the show or who are in kind of my circles business-wise are typically those that are trained as therapists, let's say, and then maybe they're branching off into coaching. So I'd love to hear how you made that transition and really established yourself in the coaching world. What did that look like? What were some of the things that were helpful for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off as actually a health coach, and then I moved from health coaching into
Mhm.
emotional and disordered eating. And then again, like as I was healing my own patterns, it became more and more clear to me that I was supposed to do relationships. And so it was like healing your relationship to food, healing your relationship to yourself, healing your relationships in general, to your family, to romantic relationships. And then once I started really talking about romantic relationships and starting working with women, I knew that that was the thing, because that's when my business really took off. And
Yeah.
so it was never really a thought to me of like, oh, I can't do this, or I'm not
Mhm.
qualified to do this, because I felt like my personal experience was really what qualified me, as well as, of course, I have certifications in internal family systems therapy, but I say that my greatest credential is my life experience. And what I've also noticed is I like to learn from people who have been through
Mhm.
what I've been through. And although, I had gone to multiple different types of therapies and all the things to try to heal this stuff, and I couldn't quite find the right thing for me, right? And so it was
Mhm.
kind of like my own path that worked for me. And so if I knew that it worked for me, then it had to work for other people, right? And so that was when I knew that that was my mission, when the universe, God, kind of confirmed it by everything just taking off and falling into place.
Mhm. Yeah, that's helpful to hear because I think everybody's journey in that regard can be a little bit different. And I
Yeah.
think some of the behind the scenes is really helpful. And that's what people are curious about because we can see the success and the programs that people are selling and, the number of people in their Facebook groups or followers. And, it can kind of look one way. And we all had to kind of establish ourselves and get there. And I find that part so interesting. So, when
Yeah.
you say healing our relationship with ourself, I think everybody listening can have some sort of an understanding what that means. But tell me more about what you have found the components of that to be. And is there a process that you use with your coaching clients to help them on that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've also noticed is there's love and money, business is very much intertwined, right? And so if we have self-worth issues in our relationships, we'll most likely have them in our businesses as well. And so that will cause us to overwork, overgive, overextend, overachieve, and we could be, blocking ourselves in business, money, all the things, because we
Mm-hmm.
don't feel worthy, right? And so we have to locate those wounds, and you can kind of start to see maybe what those wounds are based on the behaviors that we have. And so, for instance, if we're talking about business, say you continue to lower your prices for people and you're not charging what you're worth because you feel bad charging that, or you don't think that they'll see your worth, but you know that it's not the right thing to do, but you continue to do it anyway. That's a worthiness wound, right? So you don't feel like you're good enough. And so it really comes down to being able to recognize what you bring to the table, who you are, why you deserve what you deserve, and being able to talk to yourself in a way that is loving, like, just like your show is called The Compassionate Climb, being compassionate, loving with yourself, while also being disciplined enough to recognize your patterns and not continue to fall back in them over and over and over again. So it's that unique blend of compassion and discipline and self-forgiveness and self-discovery, and being able to show up as the person that would have what you desire to have, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you are thinking, I'm not good enough, this is never going to happen for me, and then that feeling and those words create you having some kind of weird behavior of obsessing about getting clients and being very needy and graspy at trying to get that, then it's not going to work. But if you say, you know what, I know what I bring to the table, I know that my work is good enough, I know that I'm lovable just as I am, and then you start embodying that and your behaviors reflect that, you're going to start attracting more of what you want.
So I can see that being a big leap for some people. Once they start to reap the benefits of that or see how when they do that consistently, how different the results can be. And I'm sure it ends up becoming this snowball effect that once you start, it just continues to build. But what have you found helpful to get people through that transitional period where they're almost kind of faking it till they make it?
Yes, absolutely. And so there's a level of faking it, but there's also like energy can't lie, right? And so the biggest thing is when you are a business owner and when you are in dating and relationship, you're selling yourself. And so you have to get sold on yourself in order for other people to buy into you, right? And so
Mhm.
for my clients that are saying, I'm not good enough, nobody's going to love me, I'm never going to get the relationship that I want, I'm saying, well, what are the amazing things that you bring to the table just as you are without you having to do anything for somebody else? And that's been a really wonderful question that really helps them identify the amazing qualities about themselves, because there are so many amazing qualities that people have that come naturally to them, that they don't even recognize are gifts because it comes naturally. And then when we start to really uncover that and say, oh, well, you know what, I'm naturally good at this, these are the compliments that I've gotten over the years, these are the things that I've been able to help people with. And when we start to uncover that and really bring that to the light, they start to recognize, like, oh, maybe I am pretty cool, or maybe I am really good at this, or
Mhm.
maybe I have more to bring to the table than I thought, right? And so yes, there is a level of faking it till you make it, like that confidence of showing up boldly and confidently. But again, you do have to get sold on yourself, and that's by stacking evidence, right? And so what are the things that you can pluck out from situations that you've been in, things that you've been told, maybe the certifications that you have, like what makes you qualified, what makes you good enough just
Mhm.
as you are, and not having it revolve around your accomplishments, but the things that make you who you are, that allow people to be drawn to you, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And I was literally thinking about the word light, and then you said it, where it sounds like even though it may feel like a disconnect for people for a period of time, that light is within them. And so it sounds like you're really helping them to see that, kind of crank it up a little bit, see how that shows up in different situations in their life, and prevent that flame from going out. It's like once you see it and then you have evidence that supports it, it's something that
Absolutely.
you can't see at that point.
Yes. And what I've also really helped my clients do is when we're thinking about like that next level for yourself. So how would you feel when you had that level of business, or how would you feel when you have that level of love, or you went on that great date? How would you feel? And I help my clients start embodying that feeling now. And then I'm like, okay, well, what would you be thinking, and what actions would you be taking? So say you are, I'm a six figure business owner, and so, and I have been for the last 4 years. And so, who do I need to become in order to reach that level? Would I be discounting all my offers? Um, would I not be owning my craft? Would I be doubting myself in certain kind of
Right.
ways? And so, what we need to think is, no, what would I be thinking? What would I be thinking? What would I be saying? What would I be doing? And so that's kind of how we can start that ball rolling of, okay, maybe I
Mhm.
don't feel super confident yet, but the more I take this action, the more confident I'm going to become. For instance, the other day, somebody had reached out to me and asked me for a one-on-one call, and I sent them my link with my price, and I got back, your prices are obscene. And so I said, you know what? I totally respect your decision. Some people think my prices are obscene, but others think that it's a steal. So I completely respect whatever it
Right.
is that you choose to do, right? And so I could have, if I didn't believe in myself and I didn't believe in my worth, then I would have
Right.
discounted my price for that person. I would have been so upset. It would have completely taken me down. However, I owned my worth, and she actually ended up coming back and saying, you know what, I'm actually going to pay your price. And she booked her one-on-one call. And so that really goes to say, when you own your worth, and I could have, apologized to her and said, you know what, you're right, let me give it to you for half price or whatever it was. That would have
Mhm.
that wouldn't have been my next level self that moves with confidence and certainty, right? And so we
Mhm.
have to make those difficult decisions. And of course, there's that inkling inside me where I was like, oh no, like maybe my prices are too high, or maybe I should lower them. Maybe I'm not qualified enough to charge this. Like that will go through anybody's mind at any level, right? But then you
Yeah.
stop to think about it and say, you know what? I believe in my price and I'm standing strong in who I am. And once you're able to do that, and then you take that action that would be congruent with that thought, that's
Mhm.
when you raise your worth more and more and more, which then allows other people to see your worth more and more and more.
Well, I'm also thinking about how that would translate if you did, let's say, reduce your price, you take this person on, you see them in your schedule, you log into your meeting, the way you're going to show up in that meeting as opposed to the way that it's played out is so different. And
So
so, yeah, I can see how that would then translate into how you show up and the way people respond. But I think also just in the work itself. Would you agree?
oh, absolutely. Because if you're coming on, you've lowered your price, you're not feeling good about yourself at that point, and you've already lost respect in that person's eyes, whether or not they recognize it or not, energetically, when you don't see your worth and you accommodate somebody who also doesn't see your worth continues to go down to that other person. And so the way that they view it. And so it's repelling the right people that are for you, and it's attracting the wrong people that are not for you when you kind of abandon yourself in that way.
So I think being trained as a social worker and having worked in a really impoverished area, I have to just ask this quick before we transition because I definitely want to talk about energy. Do
Yeah.
you think that there are exceptions where you still can know your worth? The person can ultimately see that worth, but maybe there really is this element of it being cost prohibitive for them. And
I
so, would
think
you say that in a case like that, it's still maybe not the best alignment, or do you think there can be exceptions?
I think there's absolutely exceptions. I've welcomed people into my programs who couldn't afford the full price, and
Mhm.
I loved their energy. I could see that they were willing to show up. I saw that they were really self-led and that they were determined. And I've absolutely made exceptions, but it was
Yeah.
coming from a place of this excites me to work with you, and I see
Right.
that this is a good fit, rather than I don't believe in myself to charge this price. And
Mhm.
so I'm going to lower it, because then you're not trusting yourself, but you're also not trusting them to figure it out. And so, yeah,
Right.
I've absolutely made exceptions over the years. For people that were a right fit for me, but
Yeah.
it really depends on where that action is coming from. Is it coming from a wounded place of unworthiness, or is it coming from excitement?
Yeah. That's a really important distinction. I appreciate that. So you've mentioned energy a few times, and I know we had mentioned in the beginning you work on helping people create this energetic match for
Yeah.
high value love. So tell us how energy factors in to this work.
Absolutely. So when we talk about the energetic match, we can only attract something that we are an energetic match for. And so that's the way that we think, the way that what we believe and how we feel. And so when we feel unworthy, we will attract other people that amplify that feeling, right? And so say for my clients who are coming out of toxic and abusive relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and we look at their belief system and where this is stemming from for them. A lot of the times it's this rejection and abandonment wound, right? So they feel unlovable, they feel not good enough, they fear rejection and abandonment. And so they are an energetic match to be aligned with somebody that would make them feel more of that feeling. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Yeah.
So when we start raising their energy, when we start raising their worth, when we start having them show up in this unapologetic, authentic energy, that's when they're starting to attract people who treat them better. Like so
Mhm.
when we think about women who have been in these toxic situationships, whatever it is, a lot of the times it comes back to they are treating themselves poorly. They have a really tough inner critic. They have low self-esteem. They self-abandon, say they are codependent, people-pleasing, overextending themselves, and really wearing themselves out. And
Yeah.
so that kind of energy of self-abandonment will attract users and takers. So if you are an overgiver and overextender, it would make sense that you would attract somebody who is happy to take from you. Does that
Mhm.
resonate?
Oh my gosh, for sure. Part of what this is making me think of, though, is if that is really a major component of someone's identity,
Mm-hmm.
something that they have a lot of pride in, where they have not always consistently had people that were just takers, that there have been some where it's been more reciprocal.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in particular that you have used that's been successful in helping them still stay true to themselves
Mm-hmm.
and operate from that place of integrity and authenticity? Is it just more of a process to determine who is deserving of that on the receiving end?
That's a really great question. So what it comes down to is what's behind it, right? So are
Mhm.
they overgiving or are they just generous? Are they overgiving from a place of lack or are they giving from a place of abundance? Because there's two totally different situations, and it always comes
Right.
back to that energy of, okay, well, I'm overgiving because I don't feel like I'm enough. I'm overgiving to this person to make them see my value. I want to save them, I want to fix them, I want to do all these things so that I can feel good enough.
Sure.
That's the energy that's going to attract the users and takers. But somebody who's generous, who has boundaries and is doing it from a place of my own cup is filled. I know my worth. I love and care about myself genuinely, and I'm giving because it really lights up my heart. Then you are not going to attract those users and takers because again, that wouldn't be the energetic match because they wouldn't
Mhm.
be in your energetic field because you have that level of you have those high standards of not overdoing it to where you're self-abandoning and it's not good for you.
Mhm. So for somebody to get to what you were describing first, to kind of this coming from this place instead of lack of more, you have a full cup
Mm-hmm.
and it's more with like generosity of spirit.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular, like if you could give us an example of somebody that you're working with that is, trying to get from one place to another, what are maybe some suggestions that you would make to them to start working towards that transition?
So what I would do is it comes back to that relationship with self. So are you filling yourself up first? And so that
Mm-hmm.
looks like, are you taking care of yourself? Are you putting your needs first? Are you getting the sleep that you need? Are you nourishing yourself well? Are you speaking to yourself kindly? Are you taking care of you? And then with
Mm-hmm.
what you have, do you have enough to give to this person? Do you have
Sure.
enough to give to somebody else? And I always have them ask the question, where is this coming from? Am I doing this because I don't want them to leave me, or am I
Mm-hmm.
doing this because I genuinely love and care about them? Because again, I've
Mm-hmm.
been in both positions where
Right.
I've done things purely out of the fear of, oh my gosh, if I don't do this for them, they're going to leave me. And then I've done it from a place of, oh my gosh, I love my fiance so much. I can't wait to surprise him with this thing. So how you would get there first is, again, you're filling yourself up, you're putting all the focus back on you, because when we have struggled with codependency our whole lives, which a lot of my clients have, is they have no idea who they are, what they like, what they enjoy, what makes them happy. And when I ask them that, they're like, what do you mean? And I work with a lot of business owners as well, independent contractors, and it's like, oh, like I enjoy work. And I'm like, yes, but what do you like to do outside of that? Because a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
times they like to hide out in their work and that becomes an identity for them, but they don't have
Right.
much of a life outside of that because, again, that gives them a lot of validation, right? To have, raving clients and successful businesses and all the things because they're doing what they love. They love to help people. But outside of that, what do you enjoy? How are you filling up your cup? How are you creating your own happiness outside of this? And so I
Mm-hmm.
always ask my clients, create a life that you're on fire about outside of business, outside of work. And then you're asking the questions, where is this coming from? So for example, I share with my clients, say my client feels like she always has to drive to the guy that she's dating, which I never suggest. And so she's driving to him every single time they have a date, and it's super inconvenient for her. It really stresses her out, and she's using up her gas and miles on her car and all the things. And so I'm like, well, why are you doing that? And it's because she fears saying no. She doesn't want this person to get mad or upset. She doesn't want to make them uncomfortable. And she doesn't feel like she is worth the effort. So I mean, this is a real life example. My client didn't think she was she was always driving not only to men, but her friends, because again, she didn't feel like she was worth the effort. And so I had her stop doing that. I had her stop driving to everyone else. And I started encouraging her to invite people to come out her way so she could build the evidence that she was worth the effort. Because again, if we don't ask, how would we ever know, right? And so she really started to recognize, wow, I am worth the effort. This feels good to me that I'm not always going to other people, that I'm always inconveniencing myself for them. And attracted. She just celebrated 6 months with a wonderful guy who makes her life so much easier. He really puts so much effort into their connection. And it all comes back to her recognizing that she was worth the effort.
Yeah, it's a great example. I'm just thinking about, again, in that in-between stage where she's taking your advice and she is saying, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to come, but if you want to see me, I'd love to have you come this way. And let's say she's continually getting the message from friends or from this kind of prospective partner, like, no, there could be this period of time where it's not a her thing, it's a them thing. But like, how do you help them understand that and not take that personally? Because in the situation, it is personal, but you have the ability to see that on a different level than maybe the client can in that moment.
Absolutely. And so what I share with my clients is that when you choose you, everything else will fall into place. And so if you continue to choose you and people aren't reciprocating in the friendship, but you continue to choose yourself, that's going to fall away. Right. And so that's where I'm encouraging my clients, like, yes, it feels very uncomfortable. There is this void that we all have to sit in when we're starting to make these changes in our relationships and in our lives and all the things. And it's that uncomfortability of, oh my gosh, they will not meet me halfway. They are not listening to my boundaries, or, and they feel very, very rejected. And what I tell them, I'm like, perfect. That's great that you feel that way, because that allows you to see that these people are not necessarily your people. And so if they are okay with you putting in all the effort and then putting in none, then they're not your people. And so that's where you're going out and you're finding new people with this new perspective and self-concept of, I am worthy of the effort. And you're attracting new friendships, you're attracting new dates where people really do want to put in time and effort to be around you.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of how that translates in the business world. So I manage a very large team, and I'm thinking about what it was like for me in the beginning when I was hiring and when people were coming to me with requests, whether that be something as small as something for their office all the way up to providing an additional benefit or an adjustment in compensation, and how I would respond to that early on when we had a smaller team, we were growing, versus now where we are after having many experiences, and how it is so important to not respond in that moment based off of purely your emotion and not wanting to either have a difficult conversation. It's uncomfortable to say no. You don't want the person to be unhappy. You obviously want to listen to their concern, honor it if you can, versus listening, gathering information, taking some time. You had mentioned something before about like really not only, I think personally, when it's you and not your business, like, do I have it to give? But I think even translating that into the business side of things, is it something financially that we can do? And really being clear on where that's coming from and bringing all the information to the table instead of just somebody's making a request and you want to be the person to honor that request.
Of course.
There are more things to consider when it comes to your business.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things to consider. I mean, I remember in the early stages of my business, and again, I had overcome the codependency and people pleasing in my relationships, but I hadn't quite figured that out in business yet. And so I was like willing to just do anything and everything. I was making myself available at all hours of the day and night, and I really didn't have the boundaries that I needed to have. And what that resulted in was burnout. And I was so scared that, my clients would think that I didn't care about them, or that they would get mad at me for saying no. And it came to a point where I had to, again, choose myself and decide, you know what, I am more important than my business. And that was a big thing for me to say was, I am more important than my business. My mental health matters. My energy matters. And so I do have to do what's best for myself. And if clients get mad, then they might not be, the right fit, or there's always a way that we can try to mend it. But, I'm not going to be available 24/7. I'm not going to be available for XYZ. And when I started to do that, again, my confidence rose, my worth started to skyrocket, because again, I recognized my worth, and then I saw that other people were actually abiding by that, and they weren't mad at me. Maybe some were, like I mentioned with the person that, didn't like my prices, but it came down to like, oh, people respect me because I respect me.
Yes. Oh, these are such great points. And I think the timing is perfect with us kind of ending one year, transitioning into a new one, kind of reflecting on what behaviors are serving us and which ones are not. And this is so applicable across every domain in life, but in particular, relationships and business. So I really appreciate your time today and everything that you shared. So tell everybody about your Facebook group, your offerings, and the best way for them to follow and work with you.
Of course, and thank you so much for having me. So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I have a free Facebook group called Break the Cycle. I have tons of free resources, content in there, and then also my name on Facebook is Morgan Danielle, and my my handle on Instagram is _Morgan Danielle.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate you sent all those links. I'll make sure to put them in the show notes to make it easy for everyone. And thank you for the work that you do and all of the people that you're helping.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julia.
If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. This will help others find us and benefit as well. The Compassionate Climb podcast represents the opinions of Julia Napini and her guests. The information provided is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If that is what you are seeking, please consult an attorney.